whispered tale of madness, faith, and fear. Chapter 1. The First Steps. In the summer of 1518, the sun rose heavy over the city of Strasbourg. The streets smelled of bread and sweat, of life pressed close within its medieval walls. People woke early to the sound of church bells and the shuffling of carts. But one morning, something strange unfolded in the heart of the city. Something no one could have imagined. A woman stepped out of her small home and began to dance. Her name was Frau Trophea. She moved without rhythm, without joy, and without music. Her body swayed and spun as if pulled by invisible strings. At first neighbors laughed, thinking she was simply foolish or possessed by sudden happiness. But the laughter faded as the hours passed, and she did not stop. By the evening, her feet bled. Her arms trembled. Still she danced. People gathered around her, whispering prayers. Some crossed themselves. Others stared in silence. The air felt charged, as if the city itself held its breath. Chapter 2. The fire spreads. The next day she was still dancing, and by the third day a few others had joined her. Men and women began to move in the same feverish rhythm, as if their bodies had caught fire. No one could explain it. The priests called it a curse. The doctors called it a sickness of the blood. The townspeople called it the work of the devil. Before long, the narrow streets filled with swaying bodies. The sound of shuffling feet echoed against the stone walls. People collapsed, rested for a moment, and then rose to dance again. City officials grew frightened. They sent for musicians, hoping that controlled rhythm might bring order to the chaos. But when the drums began to beat and the flutes sang, the dancers only grew wilder. They spun faster, eyes rolling back, mouths open in silent screams. The city watched as hundreds of its people lost themselves to an invisible melody. Chapter 3. The City of the Damned. By mid-July, the plague had consumed nearly 400 souls. The streets of Strasbourg had become a living nightmare. Shops closed, churches filled with prayers and cries. Families tied their loved ones to beds to keep them from joining the dancers. But many broke free and ran to the squares. Night after night, torches burned through the city as processions of exhausted bodies stumbled through the darkness. The sick danced beside the dead. The priests begged for mercy. Some claimed to see shadows dancing in the church windows, ghosts of those who had already fallen. Food rotted in the markets. The rivers stank of heat and decay. The city had become a stage, and no one could leave. And still, the dancing went on. Chapter 4. Whispers of the Divine. Some said it was punishment from Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers and epileptics. They believed the people of Strasbourg had angered him with their sins. To appease the saint, the city's leaders ordered that the dancers be moved to a shrine outside the town. There, they prayed, fasted, and walked barefoot over hot stones. But faith did not stop the movement. The dancers continued, some collapsing mid-prayer, some convulsing on the ground. Witnesses said their faces were blank, eyes open but unseeing, lips trembling with words no one could understand. It was as if they were trapped between life and death, between the earth and something beyond it. Chapter 5. Theories and Madness. Centuries later, scholars would try to explain what happened in that strange summer. Some pointed to ergot poisoning, a toxic mold growing on damp rye bread. It could cause hallucinations, spasms, and a madness that blurred the line between dream and reality. Others believed it was mass hysteria, a shared psychological storm born from fear, hunger, and despair. Strasbourg had faced famine, disease, and relentless heat. The people were exhausted, desperate for a release. Perhaps the dancing was their only escape. The body became the prayer. The rhythm became the language. No single theory could explain why hundreds danced until they died. Perhaps it was all of them at once. Perhaps it was something we will never fully understand, a haunting reminder that the mind and body can betray each other in strange, silent ways. Chapter 6. Echoes of Suffering. As the days turned into weeks, the plague began to fade, just as mysteriously as it had begun. One by one, the dancers slowed. Some dropped to the ground, never to rise again. Others wandered home, trembling, unable to speak. The city was quiet again, but not peaceful. The silence carried the weight of memory. In every alley and square, people felt the ghost of movement. The cobblestones seemed to remember. Even the wind carried whispers of invisible footsteps. The authorities destroyed the instruments, burned the clothes of the dead, and forbade public dancing for years to come. But no decree could erase what the people had seen. A whole city had moved to death's rhythm. Chapter 7. The Human Storm. When you think of the dancing plague, imagine it not as madness but as a mirror. It reflects something deep inside us, the fragile thread between sanity and chaos, between faith and fear. Humans have always been vulnerable to the collective pull of emotion. One spark of belief can ignite a crowd. One rhythm can seize a generation. The dancers of 1518 were not so different from us. They were caught in a storm of their own creation, and maybe in a way we all are. Even today, in the age of screens and noise, we see new forms of the same hysteria. Viral challenges, fads, outrage. We move in patterns we don't understand, chasing meaning, chasing escape. Maybe the dance never ended. It only changed its form. Chapter 8. The Quiet After. As autumn came, the city buried its dead. The bells rang low, their echoes trembling through empty streets. The river cooled. The laughter of children returned, hesitant but real. And yet, every so often someone would stop in the square, just for a moment, and swear they heard faint music, a rhythm in the stones, a whisper beneath the wind, a ghost of a dance that once consumed them all. The story of the dancing plague was passed down for generations, told as a warning, a mystery, and a miracle all at once. Perhaps it was divine, perhaps it was madness, or perhaps it was simply the human soul trying for one unbearable summer to break free from itself. Chapter 9. The Lesson in the Silence. When we remember the dancers of 1518, we remember more than an illness. We remember the thin line that holds the world together, the moment when faith turns into frenzy, when hope becomes horror, and when movement becomes surrender. It reminds us how fragile we are, and how deeply connected. The city of Strasbourg eventually rebuilt, and life went on. But if you stand there today, in the old quarter, at dusk, and listen closely, you might still feel it. The faint vibration under your feet, the heartbeat of history itself. The dance is over, but its rhythm still hums in the dark corners of time. And maybe that's the most haunting part of all.